I have reviewed it.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Bill.
I'll second.
Joni, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Public comment on agenda items, and also I think there's an opportunity at the end of the meeting as well, so thank you all for being here. Moving on to approval of minutes from our May 11 meeting.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes from the May 11, 2022 meeting.
Thank you, Jody.
I'll second.
Thank you, Kelly. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Financials. Anything to report or add, Mark?
We do have the, we do need to approve the bills.
Yep.
And the checks, but everything is looking fine. There's nothing out of the ordinary at this point.
All the checks were, or the bills were budgeted for?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
Thanks, Annie.
Second.
Jody? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Executive Director report. Mr. Miller.
Okay, this will be a tag team today. Just want to cover for the DDA board and members of the public a significant activity that we had last week. We took tours of several downtown buildings that are highlighted as priority redevelopment sites. We had 3 DDA board members attend, so I just want to thank Annie and Bruce and Kelly for attending. We also had 5 city council members, including Councilmember Grabowski. And so what we did with those, we toured the Jones Dairy Building, which is the oldest standing wood structure in downtown, and went through the building and saw what kind of state it was in. The primary purpose for this was to highlight the kind of investment that a private person would need to take in order to bring it back up to code and bring it back up to useful life. We also toured the Northern Hotel project. They're getting started. We heard very clearly that they picked it up for $300,000 roughly. They are budgeting for $4 million worth of improvements to bring it up to a value of $2 million. So there's a $2 million gap that they're budgeting for. That doesn't mean that their construction bids that they've received are at $4 million. They're much higher, but that's what they're planning on doing. We also toured the Fricano's building, which was an RRC priority site, and went through that. Ted was there for the first tour. Basically went through all the changes that he's made since picking up the building. He spent much more on it than he thought he was budgeting for, but he gutted the building. There wasn't anything in that building that was salvageable for a restaurant. And so we heard that directly from Ted. And so we have a lot of these properties. Even the buildings that that have storefronts on the main floor, you go up above that floor and some of them look exactly like what we saw at the Jones Dairy and at Northern Hotel. So the point for us is to show that a public-private partnership is going to be needed with these investors and developers, whether they be local or from out of town. They'll be needed in order to help them reach that gap and invest in our downtown. And so I think it was very clear that I think for some people the eyes were opened, but I think that there's a lot of opportunity for our downtown. It's going to take a big investment. So that was a great thing. I want to thank Bill Gamble for kind of helping put that together with City Council. It was an important thing. We have and continue to work on our development projects that are ongoing. We're in touch on a routine basis with the Northern Hotel Project, the River Vault, the Music Vault on River Street project for Canos, and of course the Gateway Project, which you should see some demolition start in the next week. They're doing abatement now, and we should start to see some of that coming down soon. We also have had a few new businesses downtown. So Teresa Kiefer has started her new business. We mentioned last month that Mangiardi Films has moved to Manistee. And we also have a new downtown business called My Flag, which has set up in the old chamber offices. And so there's more to come on that, and we keep working with other entrepreneurs to try to get them into the downtown district. And I'll just say that it is very hard to get a business downtown. Even though we think there are available spaces, there are not, and we want to make sure that we try to work with these entrepreneurs. One of the most notable ones we've been working with for a year and a half is Wholesome Bites. Very talented bakery. Would love to get them downtown. So that's kind of a director's report on our end. Everything else is going okay, I think, with financials and the team approach. And if Stacy, do you want to talk a little bit, if I haven't stolen any thunder?
No, you're good. So Mark, I'm just here to kind of let you know, as the CEO of the chamber, that the team approach, the reason we took on the DDA contract is if there is any kind of people leaving or transitioning, that we have a team in place, that there will be no disruption to the contract. So Mark will be the point person for the DDA going forward, and then we manage things internally so that we have financials set, working with merchants, and handle the downtown email so that we're in communication with every board member, city council, and what we can be. So Mark is your point person for the DDA, so that's kind of why I'm here, and you'll be seeing a lot more of Mark.
Also, just want to add to that, please use the Manistee, the City of Manistee emails. And so we're monitoring the director@manisteedowntown.com email. If anyone has any issues, please try that first. That way we can put that out to the different people who are responsible for different parts of the management of the contract.
And just for the public, it's director@manisteedowntown.com. So that's if you have any questions for us as the entity that has a contract with the DDA, please utilize that email address and we will respond as much as we can. I do also want to update the board and the public that the chamber did hire a marketing and communications specialist, Cassidy Jessup. So she did start with us this week, and then we do have Carmen Cott, who will be going on maternity leave. So life happens, good things happen, so just understand there is a little transition, but again, there won't be any disruption to the DDA contract.
You mentioned Main Street.
We can, sure.
Okay, we'll let.
There's been a couple of comments here and there and discussions with people that I think there needs to be kind of an update with maybe a communications from the DDA in regards to that we're not a Main Street program anymore, and what the DDA's focus area is as just a downtown development authority. So we'll work with the board on that to kind of keep that communication out there to the general public.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Appreciate it. Any questions for Mark or Stacy? Okay, moving on to reports from Ad Hoc Committees. Streetscape RFQ. Mr. Gamble.
Thank you, Kyle. So we have a site visit that we set up. We received all our questions from vendors and posted our responses, and then what resulted in that is we had a site visit today, 2:30 to 3:30. So we'll be taking vendors around, collecting more questions, and posting the answers to those on the 14th. The proposals are now due June 28th. So in our timeline, once we select a vendor to move forward with interviews, it's going to be the week of July 18th. And then if we find a good partner to work with us to implement improvements, identify and implement improvements, we look to award in August and start working with them to do the collaboration, looking at the different things we'd like to implement, do the specifications for. So the focus of this is to find a partner to implement projects, build off the previous studies, but that only works if we find a good partner. So we're at that stage right now. So that's kind of the update with that.
Thank you. This is a long-term project, and we're just at the beginning of request for qualification, finding the right partner to work with us, and to meet our needs and work with us is the key. So.
Any questions on that? Or?
Okay. Thank you, Bill. District businesses. Deanna, anything going on?
Thank you. Good morning. I have a little bit of a list, yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So, first of all, I want to just bring up that the downtown merchants are doing a Father's Day promotion, Shop Downtown Manistee Father's Day promotion. Many, if not all, we just have had great outcome from this. The basket is located in the small window of the Manistee Inn and Marina. There's been gifts from Outpost and Snyder's and Northern Spice Company. I can't even name them all, like so many. And it's just, so I just really want to, if you guys have seen the promotion, I did make an event on Facebook. If you could please share it, that would be great. I want to say that I take the chamber, but the more we can get it out there. So it's really about every time you shop downtown Manistee, you get a little tag to fill out, name, phone number, and you get an opportunity to win this basket. And right now it's over $700 value. So it's worth shopping downtown Manistee for Father's Day right now or for anything, to get as many entries as you can into this basket. That is going on. Some of the comments that I've heard from downtown merchants that maybe we can just revisit or bring up. Well, something I noticed yesterday, let's do that first, signage for Division and Filer Street for the construction that's going on. Right now, there's a big orange barricade that says road closed, and I know that it's only on the west or the east side of the road. But it doesn't say, it says eastbound River Street closed, but it doesn't indicate that westbound River Street is open. It really looks like at that corner, River Street is closed.
It says street closed to through traffic, and then further beyond it says eastbound only.
Correct.
So I agree, it would be helpful.
Yep, there's nothing indicating that westbound is totally open or
Yeah.
that you can take past that barricade. Right,
Yeah,
okay.
thank you.
Just wondering, okay. A couple merchants had brought up to me too, garbage access downtown to the garbage bins. If they're taking their garbage there on a Saturday or a Sunday, that they're full, and lots of sightings of public people putting garbage in there, too, in the past week from myself. And unfortunately, I know the people, and I'm like, you have nothing to do with River Street. You don't rent here, you don't. So anyways, could we go to a keypad, like the merchants get and it changes every 3 months, goes out in an email. I just, Patty from Northern Spirits kind of brought this up to me, and she said, so as she walks, because she parks, as she walks her garbage up the hill behind the PNC Bank one to the parking lot over, and she gets her garbage up there, and then she's walking her garbage back to her store because there's nowhere to leave it, and she said, I don't want to be that person that leaves it next to the garbage can. So I just feel like if they're constantly being full, that merchants that pay for it or people that have Airbnbs downtown that pay for that garbage, it should be accessible to them.
We'll look into it, and maybe just more frequent emptying.
Emptying,
Yeah. but
something.
Thank you.
Walkways, I know that it had been mentioned before that we were going to have the pedestrian walkway people out or the signage out by now.
Oh, the crosswalk signs.
Crosswalk.
I talked to DPW, they're going to put it in this week.
Okay, good. They're needed. People dart out from between cars, and it seems like cars are slowing down, but if they've already slowed down for that walkway, then they're going to be slow for darting out people. Welcoming new businesses downtown. It is exciting that we have new businesses come downtown that, Teresa Kiefer's Well Nested.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, it is just charming in there. If you haven't been in there, walk in and welcome her. She's so excited to be downtown, and we're excited to have new businesses. So just, yeah.
So that's on the far west end of River Street.
What was the name of her store?
Well Nested.
Okay, thank you.
Former location in Northern Spirit.
Moving Spirits.
Moving Spirits,
Moving
thank you, yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. Right down here.
Yeah. Just talking to somebody, she's just such good energy and just so appreciative to be downtown because she does know how hard it is to find a building downtown. I just want to give a public congratulations to Kelly on your award through the Elks and all that you do. I think that it just speaks volumes to what you do. Thank you. Mhm. And the last thing is we have a merchant meeting coming up this Tuesday. It is still by Zoom. I know I'm a big advocate of trying to get it back to, and we will one day do a face-to-face or a hybrid of them both, but June at 8:30.
Next Tuesday?
Nope, it's the Tuesday after, and I got my phone out to look up the date, and then I didn't do that.
14th?
It is, nope, the 21st. Monthly Zoom merchant meeting, 8:30, June 21. So please join us for that. Merchants, anyways.
Okay.
That's what I have.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Beautification. Or any questions for Deanna? Thanks for doing that.
You're welcome.
Beautification, Kelly.
The first thing I wanted to do was thank the DPW for getting the placement of the flowers away from the buildings. And I wanted everybody's opinion on that, what they thought about the flowers being out by the road instead of by the buildings. Does anybody have a comment about that?
I really like it.
Pretty.
It's beautiful.
They were beautifully done.
It's a nice improvement.
When we started, we thought that we had to have the planters on the X's. And now that we know we don't have to have them on the X's, I would like to see the flower planters evenly spaced between the lampposts so it looks like it's strategically placed, like it is a streetscape.
Symmetry?
Yes, symmetry.
How come they don't have to be at the X's?
Well,
can reach
they moved them out much further than we thought that they would. I was hoping we could bring them in a foot more.
You mean towards the center of the street? Towards the edge of the sidewalk?
Yes.
Okay.
I did try with my car door, and if you move it even I feel like they're in the walkway a little too much, but, you know, I noticed when I opened my car door, it wouldn't hit if it was closer to the road, but we'll continue on with that. I'd like to meet with Jeff and still see if we can get the placement a little bit better than what it is. And next year, I'm hoping that we will get more planters. I would like to see planters all up and down River Street, and ones that are painted and fresh. The gazebo is up in the art park. Thank you to Jane and Bob Sievert and their family members. I would like to get a picnic table for this area. I was hoping Jeff would be here today. And I will be power washing and staining benches and picnic tables hopefully this week before it's out, to match the gazebo. A native garden was planted by Gordy and Mark, who I've invited to come here and talk a little bit about what they did. And they also have some art that they want to talk about, as well as phase 2 that's coming. And I was wondering when I could get reimbursement for the shade structure as well as for their gardens. Can you tell me
Today.
about that?
Today.
We have checks to sign.
After a couple people sign checks.
Awesome, okay. And then Jane Sievert is also taking care of the tree garden by Fricano's, just west of Fricano's. And she has a list of things from Wheezy's and their prices, so I'd like to hand that in today too, and see if
Okay.
we could get reimbursement for that as
Okay.
well. I wanted to know what the status was for the irrigation/landscaping.
So the irrigation, I think we've discussed, I don't know if there's a plan to update the irrigation. We talked about native plants. So I don't think there's a plan at this point. Is that something that, we had a meeting in February to go over projects for this year. We had several of them, but irrigation was not one.
Okay. Could we possibly take the money from what we budgeted for landscaping and put it towards irrigation so we can get landscaping?
So that's a decision for, I guess, who's going to pay for the water bill if we do the irrigation. I don't know the cost of the irrigation repairs at this point. We'd have to get some more information about how much it's going to cost.
Could we maybe find out where there are irrigation systems that are no longer being used? I think it'd be helpful just to know, is there one, are there four? And are there meters on them, where the meters are located? I think at the last meeting, Jeff McCool said that in his 9 years, he had never had anything to do with them. So maybe somebody at the water department at least knows. I know where one is in particular, but it'd be nice to just understand the status so we can have a baseline.
Yep, okay.
Right, because Nunez has, as you've seen, they've designed a beautiful gardens, but they won't plant them unless we have irrigation,
Okay.
so.
And that applies to native species as well.
Well, they're actually pulling hoses out right now
Yeah.
to water their stuff, but irrigation would be the best, I would assume.
It would be helpful just in the establishment, but yeah, one of the ideas with native plants is that they are going to be more drought resistant. And so once they're established, they should need very, very little supplemental water. if
Great,
any.
thank you. I think we'll hear more from Gordy here shortly, right?
Yes. And then, was there a fountain donated, a water fountain donated from Nunez? They had emailed
Not
me
that
and
I'm aware of.
Okay, I forwarded on to you. I was hoping that they had talked to you about it. So they had mentioned that they wanted to donate a fountain, a water fountain to Manistee. So
To be placed.
I think that was to be determined.
Okay, interesting.
Notice it.
Yeah. How would you all feel as a board, to take on the rest of finishing the city marina? Manistee Proud stopped on November 1st because it started to get cold. But there's still a whole lot of pressure washing and painting of benches and picnic tables. And as a board, I thought it would be kind of a nice gesture to work one Saturday or whenever we all can to finish the city marina to make it look its best. How does everybody feel about that?
Sounds like you're organizing it, right?
Well, are you in? I would welcome anybody to
Are you
help us
talking
finish.
pruning, power washing, what are you?
Yeah,
okay.
there's a whole lot of trees in there that need to be pruned as
Okay.
well. But there is power washing of the wood structures and the sidewalks. And the rest of the picnic tables and benches need to be painted to match the trim of the building. I mean, we have $1 million boats coming in, and it's not what it should be.
Could you maybe put together an invitation
Yeah, I would love to.
and make people sign up?
Sure.
I'll help.
There's also Big Beer Serving.
I was
so
just
don't
gonna
know
bring
if-
that up.
Yeah, it's going on Saturday, so I don't know if there's any overflow of volunteers. That could be something.
Yeah, I don't think they're painting because I have all the paint in my basement, so, but if they're doing other things, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, good idea.
Is Carmen organizing, or no, she has the contact? for
Yeah, she
the
can
leader of
reach
the
out
group?
to the entire team. If you send me something or
Okay.
send it to the DDA email, I can have, Carmen will be happy to reach out to the leadership team.
Okay,
To see
great.
if there's,
If
you
they're
know,
doing it.
now it is Saturday, so.
Yeah, but,
Be nice to do it this month.
Yeah.
The Marina's not real busy right now.
right, yeah. And there is still quite a bit to do. I would love to see our bar elevated,
Mm-hmm.
so that's it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Kyle, do you mind if we go back up to Deanna for a minute?
We can go back up to
Okay,
Deanna.
thank you.
Go ahead,
Just before we
Deanna.
get to all the rest, it was 2 points that I had forgot to make, and I printed these off. So just to revisit into the Play Nice, Park Nice, there is a letter now on letterhead that can be handed out, distributed. I just wanted to distribute it to the whole board so you guys can read it. One final, or some final eyes on it, if you have any recommendations or suggestions for it. I think it's a really nice letter, though, that just states what time of year it is and to be aware of parking. Also, I did want to mention from downtown that Manistee Inner Marina now has a new manager. Tim Krause is gone, and Brandon, have you met him? Brandon, really nice guy, Brandon and Jennifer have moved in. They have 2 young kids, but they have moved in, and lots of enthusiasm, lots of energy for downtown. So maybe you'd want to stop in and welcome them as well if you're in the area.
And I'd like to also add that we did meet them, and they are very motivated to make some positive changes at the fish cleaning station and the building itself. So we're excited about that, as well as gardens.
Yeah, one of his first comments was, "This is Manistee Inn and Marina, and it's going to reflect that."
Yeah.
So I like his enthusiasm right now.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, Deanna. Thanks for the
Thank you.
work on the letter as well. Okay, moving on to old business. West Shore Community College Riverwalk EDA grant update. Who's taking this one?
So we're, right now, the last I heard, so we had to get someone working on the SHPO document, so that's the State Historic Preservation Office, needs a letter of no effect to send to the EDA. So we hired a firm to do that. It was $4,000 for Spicer to, they have to have an expert in historic preservation. So once that study is complete, then they get that, SHPO reviews it and then sends a letter. Then we'll be, I think that's the one last thing we're waiting on, so.
Great.
Anyway, that's where we're at.
Okay.
For the public, Bill, if I can ask, and I know the answer, but you're the expert. What is the time frame or the sequence of events that happen with the match that would allow the college to move forward with their portion? They have to wait until what?
Right, so we used the funds for that, the college portion as the match. So technically, this is all part of the EDA grant project, this $1,090,000 grant project. So once we get awarded, and I think they were looking at September for the official award, then we have to do this, we have to go through and hire a firm, we have to go through this qualified vendor process, which is kind of this is a federal grant, it's a little bit longer, but then we select the people who are going to do the bid specifications, and then we're going to be going through that process. So we have to wait until we're awarded to move forward with the next steps.
So spring, maybe.
Hopefully, yep.
Any other old business? New business? And public comment?
I just wanted to echo a comment, if I could, relative to the barriers coming down Filer Street. It seems unusual that we would, we're blocking basically the access to River Street. Those barricades are actually out into Filer Street, and really for somebody who's local, you just drive around it.
Do you mean Division?
I'm sorry?
Do you mean Division Street?
I'm sorry, Division.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Coming down Division, they're sitting there blocking access, and I really don't see any reason why there should even be a sign at that point. I mean, ultimately, you get to the bottom of the hill, you can't turn right, okay, you go to the left. It's far more confusing and I think disruptive for business to have those signs where they're placed, especially coming out of the road. So it'd be nice to see them removed, to be blunt.
I agree.
Yeah,
I
thank
like
you,
that.
Jeff.
It's no right turn at River Street. I think that's the only thing that needs to happen. No right turn at River Street.
There's a sign on Filer that nicely, captures what it is. If you're going Filer heading towards Division, and it's a small little orange sign, you could place that and people would get the message that, okay, I can't get the light to go out onto 31. But
Yeah.
right now, it's, for all intents and purposes, it feels like River Street shut down.
Yeah.
You go
Yes,
down
it
near
Yeah.
tourist.
Yeah, agreed, thank you.
I'll bring it up to Little River Holdings, and
Okay.
I know their demo company and the signage plan, but we'll talk to them about it.
Great. Okay, anyone else?
I brought some information on the benefits of.
Will you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right,
Yeah,
I know you.
yeah. I'm Gordy Heinold. I live across in the condo building and part of the garden project that Mark and I are doing.
I'm Mark, Jacob Qual Sanchez. I'm fairly new to the neighborhood community. Over the last year and a half, I moved from downstate up here. I'm a owner of a startup company called Permanent. So it stands for Permaculture Nature. Also, I include us in that. It's more of a basis of permanent with humans in general, with plants and nature, all of it combined under one kind of umbrella. Also, thank you, Mark, for everything with Caitlin. We've had such an amazing time with you. You've made it so easy for us to introduce ourselves. I'm also a partner of Folsom Heights, so with Caitlin. But it's been phenomenal being here and kind of doing these projects, especially with Corey, introducing ourselves in the community. Kind of the gardens of planting the seed to the tree in my mind, getting people to understand nature, native plants, root systems, carbon sequestration, and all of these different things that we're starting to hear more generally throughout our conversations with people in the future of mankind, essentially. So it's been a pleasure to hear this and to start with the garden and introduce those natives. So thank you.
Last year, because we're in a condo now, and I just really been getting that gardening bug, I went to Matt Lamore at Black Cap Farm in Nodacama, who sells all natives. And Kelly, I think you had talked to Matt about doing a Riverwalk garden. And so Matt was hugely helpful in the little one we did last year behind the Happy Owl. And that still needs to have other things put in. It was just a foundation planning, and I paid for those, and Matt sold them to me at his cost and gave me lots of great advice, so that was wonderful. And we really appreciate you guys funding these plants because we were able to do, a more lush planting that should fill the whole thing and really shouldn't require much weeding, and yeah.
And specifically, those are just east of the Maple Street Bridge, correct?
Yes.
Your latest garden, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
We were hoping to also do the area around that pine tree. There's an octagonal area, but we basically ran out of funds, but that's still in a phase 2 idea. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Gosh, we could go into a lot of things in terms of why plant natives. A lot of that is in these handouts. It's really concise, well-written stuff. But there are a lot of compelling reasons. And one of them is the lack of maintenance once they're established. And we're hoping that this will be a beautiful thing too. Not just native, not just a benefit to the insects, which benefit the birds. If we want songbirds, we have to have insects, and if we have insects, we want insects, we have to have native plants because that's what they evolved to eat. So there's again, that's really well laid out in the information. So we're hoping this will be beautiful, and we'd like to see it extended to other places. So Kelly had mentioned the median strips on First Street and on Cherry by the beach. I talked with Matt about some options for that to get some color in there, and so those are worth considering from a native standpoint. Yeah.
I think it's amazing that we introduce natives. I think a lot of people, we start to get disconnected from it, and as I'm super concerned with our this almost extinction of microdiversity and microorganisms and plants, and we're starting to see this kind of go downhill, and we have a chance to change it. We're seeing documentaries on Netflix and about soil or fantastic fungi or natives and our ecosystems and rebuilding them, and we are intelligent enough to actually make this change. And so when we start to plant natives, we start to enforce our native ecosystem. And the native ecosystem works off of each other. And so we have bugs that feed birds, and we love our birds. Like going to Michigan and being up this West Coast, we're all super into nature. We're all super into going out in the woods. This is probably why most of us are here in Michigan and this West Coast. It's just so beautiful. And so if we can make it beautiful and have all of these different aspects that are beneficial to it, then we can introduce that and we can build off of that. So it takes native gardens or in just a small area, or we can have it in people's backyards, and it's kind of this act that's kind of building, and we want to preserve that. We're going through, what, 95% of this extinction of these plants and animals and natives, because we're replacing it with all these human structures, and they're beautiful and gorgeous, and we've done such a big job, but it's kind of our job to also look at the other picture and look at these plants and their root structures and everything like that. And then there's also like edibility factors, like being a chef, that's how I got into it. I started studying with all of these chefs that were in Michelin star restaurants, foraging and having all of these ingredients that I had no idea they were there. And then looking in our own backyard and finding elderberries and mulberries and milkweed, and finding you can eat so much and enjoy so much, and then they have medicinal benefits in certain cases. And so it was this whole introduction, and we've kind of, some of us have lost track of that or disconnect from it. And so just getting people to reconnect with it and enjoy the beauty of it and see these things grow is just phenomenal to me. So it's,
Yeah, please.
And I hope you guys don't mind a question or two.
Absolutely.
So thanks for bringing this up and for planning along that section. I actually ran into you,
Yeah.
Gordy. We talked about the plant that didn't make it. So Mark, a question for each of you, but for Mark, you're talking about the diversity and kind of a mass extinction. And what I think would be really helpful for the public is if you can maybe just kind of check off a few of the things and bring it down to what we see.
Yeah.
So when you talk about species, we're talking about native bees and other pollinators that are kind of disappearing, and they're real important for things like pollinating fruit trees, like cherries and apples. We're also talking about monarch butterflies, which are almost on the verge of being listed as a federally threatened species because their numbers have fallen off. So that's about what you're talking about. Is that right, Mark?
yes.
Okay.
Even like the pitcher thistle on, like in Harbor Village or so forth, like looking at that and seeing these plants that aren't as bountiful as they used to be, and just kind of reconnecting with them. So
Perfect segue to the next question for Gordy and for you as well. Why don't you give us a few names of what you planted out there, so that we can kind of keep a lookout for them and kind of figure out, or for us, if we go to Black Cap, what are we looking for to kind of, you kind of do what you did out there with to help pollinators?
So from this end going east, we started with some sumacs. So there are fragrant sumacs on the bottom. We're going to have staghorns at the top, and the berries are edible, and they can be used to make a drink, a tea essentially.
yeah, essentially a tea. It's like a lemonade almost, sumac-ade. And you can use it in classic Mediterranean dishes are derived off of it, like you'll find sumac chickens and so forth. So you can dry the berry and add it as a spice. Something like that, which we kind of walk by or see, well, we don't really have it introduced into our culture, so it's like this Great Lake cuisine, which is kind of cool. So,
We've got some blueberries, some low bush blueberries, we have huckleberries, we have a serviceberry tree, we have some wild plums, we hope to have some wild strawberries in there. And what else do
we
we
have
have?
the yarrow, which is beautiful, but also you can utilize for teas, you'll find. We have some of the sedges. The sedges are most for root structure and beautification and height and so forth.
Yeah, we have sedges and grasses going throughout the whole thing to try to unify it. And there's a long stretch with a lot of wildflowers that are just mixed in together. Hopefully we'll have nice mixes of yellows and blues and purples and whites that will be attractive.
Can you please tell me where this explain to me where this garden is at again, please?
Oh, sure.
And then it's at the bridge.
It's on the other side of the bridge?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Right on the Riverwalk, really between the bridges, but
Okay.
on the- just to the east of the Maple Street Bridge.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And I've been encouraging people who walk by that, hey, when there's fruit that's ripe, help yourself. You know, people are a little bit nervous about that, but, yeah. And we have a place behind one of the benches that's for planting where we want to do a Three Sisters planting, which is the traditional corn, beans, and squash or pumpkins. And, you know, while those are cultivated species, they're cultivated natives. So it's a nod to, you know, thanks to the indigenous folks who came up with this and who perfected it. Yeah. So we want to do that.
Did you want to talk at all about the artwork?
Yes. So that was kind of our phase one. We wanted to get a structure in there, a skeleton that will grow and build. And I think this was a phenomenal foundation. But we'd also like to add art. I think art and that whole aspect, like adding us into nature and that permanence, kind of like allowing us to have this balance and seeing us. I think beautification of art, like the electrical boxes, or having art in there. The signage will have some identification of the plants. There's also talk that I'd like to do some like QR codes so people can educate themselves furthermore with that. Like if you go to the Arcadia Bluffs and you see the different types of birds, you can also scan and see the different types of flowers, maybe edible purposes, so forth, and then linkage too, so you can buy these products or where you can get them or just learn more about them. But that way people kind of interact with it, so it's not just a garden that's beautiful, but when you're walking and you're with your family, you can kind of have fun with it. I've heard plans of, you know, the Riverwalk extending and so forth, so it's just, I think it's kind of fun. It adds some fun to it, and then with the art, it adds a piece of us into it, and it makes it fun. So I think that's really important, and like the beautification factor again, I think is fun. So.
Recent.
I'm sorry, things are popping up in my head. So,
Sure.
I'm not, this is probably not a native garden, but is there any ability for local, like downtown restaurants to do like they grow their own herbs, or they, maybe plant their own tomatoes, or?
The Fillmore was.
Yeah, the Fillmore has, they have some herbs, and they have like brassicas and stuff back there, all throughout that little garden and edge.
But I mean, is there, okay, I don't know if there's an ability for everybody to have access to that, and maybe just popped into my head as a question. And then the other question I had was, or the comment that I had, was that the founders, the Right Side Design and the DD, or the CVB has a founders walk that's going in down on the west end here of Riverwalk.
When is
And
that
I'm-
happening now?
Pardon?
When is it happening? I thought it was going to happen in May. Do you know?
We don't have an update yet. I don't know, Barry, if we've gotten an update on when that's gonna happen. Yeah,
But
that's, yeah.
maybe not, it's still, I think, trying this month, but.
Okay. good.
What I'm getting at is I wonder if there should be an opportunity there of planting native plants. That's Brandon down at Right Side Design. I don't know exactly if there's anything that is part of that
Could make a nice space.
design, but it might be an opportunity to kind of pull it all together.
Love to be involved in that.
Could be a nice face too to that project.
My wife and I had some overnight guests recently. The gentleman's an artist. And before we planted, we just took him for a walk along the river walk, and I showed him the spot. And I didn't say anything about doing anything with the boxes, those electrical boxes, some of which are rusted. He looked at me and said, "How would you like me to paint those for you?" I thought, heck yeah. And so he made a serious offer to come to town, and if we supplied the paint, and if I put them up for a couple days, which would be a joy, that he would do those. And so this gentleman, he marketed some of his art in greeting cards, and so these are just some examples of some of his stuff. but it's abstract, kind of cool stuff. And, yeah, I mean, he was also looking at the backs of some of the buildings and said, I could do a mural there. I think this could be big fun. But
Bill, what is the status on the transformers? Are they planning on wrapping them? Can we
We
paint them?
put that in the grant, but it is consumers' property, so it's not really up to the city.
For us to
It's up-
paint,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's someone else's property.
But have we asked them if we could?
Yes,
Paint them.
I actually called Eric Gustad from Consumers last week and revisited that conversation and told him some of the pictures that are on those and with the utilization and tourism and the, general public using the river walk, and that they are a bit of an eyesore, and so that if we could maybe run that up the chain to see what we could do for that. So I do need to follow back up with him this week, so if maybe I could take one of those. I
Oh, absolutely.
Show him a picture of that.
And I can give you a link to his
Or an
Facebook
email,
page.
yeah, if you can
Yeah.
email me, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I can
Absolutely.
give you those too.
Thank you.
Sure.
Go ahead, Barry.
So it was a couple years ago that the former design committee had Eric in for a couple meetings, and we were talking about this issue, and it was made very clear from consumer standpoint, you shall not touch. So it's something to be, walked down carefully. At that time, it seemed like the best approach would be to kind of encase them in some sort of surrounding that was therefore not consumers' property, that we could then do whatever we wanted to. So, it's, you think the public has taken liberties to, add their own artwork, that it should be easy for us to fix that, and it's unfortunately not.
Well, we could just call it graffiti.
Right. Do it at 2 a.m., right?
I think Chaz would be up.
And Barry, to your point, I was at the design committee meeting, so I did mention that to Eric again and just said, hey, I think it's time we revisit that. Maybe consumers has a different approach now.
Yeah.
It would be
So,
nice.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So administratively, where does public art fall? Is it here? If it's in the DDA, is it in the beautification committee? Where is it?
It's a good question.
I think we need an answer to that because this comes up a lot
Mhm.
and we don't know where to put it and, put it in a line item and spend on it. So if we could make that, an action item, where does it fall? So we can start putting money into it. So you said phase two. What's in phase two?
Well, phase two, phase two is to finish this strip here. So we've got some sumac trees that need to go in and some ground cover strawberries that need to come in, the Three Sisters. And I would like to include the pine tree as part of phase two. I went down on Sunday and I dug out the weeds. I realized those were looking horrific, but it's still pretty barren. It would look nice with something. And so we haven't really decided what. We've tossed around the thoughts of some boulders and tucking some plants in amongst them, which would look very natural and would be extremely low maintenance. But yeah, that's the immediate phase two. I would like to finish out the planning that was done last year behind Happy Owl. It's just it's a skeleton and it's okay, but it really is asking for more. So, yeah.
Well, when you have phase two, come back.
Okay. With a plan? Okay, excellent.
I'd also like to see you collaborate with Nunez.
Yeah, very good. That was the next thing. We would love to do that. And regarding the irrigation, if it's a matter of the irrigation eventually coming in, like right now that strip that is immediately west of ours, so it's immediately behind the Manistee Inn. It's just barren. And I'm already watering We're already watering these two on either side of it. So it would be easy for me, my schedule is very flexible. At least this summer, I can say, I could water some things. So if Nunez has a plan, and if they would want to start something, put some shrubs or something in there, I would be happy to be the water.
So Bill, if they collaborated with Nunez and they came up with something that worked within our budget and they watered, would we be able to do that this year?
I would think so. I know you have a $20,000 budget with the DDA, so I don't think this is really a city issue, other than if we're trying to put in infrastructure and the city's being asked to fund it and figure out a project.
But once the gardens are in, is that an issue then for irrigation to be repaired? Does that have to be done first?
You know, I don't understand the irrigation project. I know you brought it up a couple times, but I'd have to understand the scope of it. But that is going to be an ongoing maintenance item and cost. So is that something we want to tackle, and who's going to pay for what? It's a question we have to answer.
Except that the costs of irrigation, the water bill, is not going to break anybody's budget. So I personally do not want that question to delay decisions going forward. If the DDA has to pay for water for plants, I think we can all agree we'll pay for water for plants. So let's not get stuck on that particular issue. You know, I think there are more important things to decide. Water bill will pay. Is that everybody else's?
I think it'd be, yes, I agree, and it'd be nice to just understand where those systems are currently. Are they salvageable at all? Or, because some of this stuff has been buried for a while, so.
I would like to see this happen this summer if we can.
Okay.
I have no patience.
Kelly and patience don't go together. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. I've met Mark, sorry, go ahead.
One more question.
Please.
So as you've walked around, the city landscapes, there are areas where there is city landscaping. I don't believe that a lot of the landscaping is with native plants. Have you looked around in areas like the strip in between Water and River Streets? That's, for areas where we could replace what's there with native plants. If you haven't thought about that.
Yeah. I have not a lot, because this year has been pretty consuming.
Right. Because the reason I ask is replacing landscaping wherever you can with native plants dramatically reduces maintenance costs.
Yes.
And labor costs. I listen to the maintenance costs, a couple of times a week with leaf blowers and, trimmers and stuff going, and it costs money. And it's not very attractive, and it doesn't say, so putting native plants in that scream, northern Michigan, I think would be a lot better. So if you're phase 3, take a look at what's out there.
We're creating phases for you now.
Hey, I'm young.
Yeah. Well, I've witnessed you two, I haven't met Mark yet, but I've witnessed you guys put in a ton of hours down there, and I appreciate that, but also your passion and the education today. It's fascinating.
And how wonderful to have volunteers like
Yeah.
this in our
Yeah.
community that are
Absolutely.
willing to give.
Yeah, well, welcome to Manistee, too.
Thanks, yeah. I tell you, I started using the word grateful and gratitude, and I've been listening. How many people in this area talk about how grateful they are and how much gratitude they are for the beauty that we have to be here? Whew. Yeah, so thanks for letting us be here.
Well, thanks for pointing it out, too. Thank you. All right.
That's why this community is so special. Can we still talk about getting a mural or 2 or 3 downtown
Sure.
at some point?
Yeah. Are you talking like on buildings or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know it's been talked
Definitely.
about, but it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can have, you know, if you have something specific, you can ask Mark to put it on the agenda specifically.
And let me just, just so you know, that there's been some groundwork laid here. One thing that the chamber did about a year and a half ago, we went after a grant that was unsuccessful, that would have included community public art. In that conversation, we raised the issue about whether it was permissible to have murals downtown. And city zoning / county planning went through and made an amendment that made it possible. And so there was some groundwork done, and I think one of the first things we could do is go back and review that ordinance change, or whatever it was classified as, and that should give us the roadmap for moving forward. But then the funding is the other piece, and it sounds like Gordy has a free shot at something, maybe not a mural, but yeah.
I think maybe we start by identifying areas.
Good, let's go, let's do this.
Okay, Kelly.
And let's, when we're stepping through this, when we set up meetings, let's get the people, everybody from, if we need historic district, if we need city council, if we need, let's get everybody in the room at the same time, so that when we can leave, everybody's got things to execute, you know, rather than staging it and going first to historic, then to, right? Let's get everybody in the same room.
And I have a
Can
question.
we hold, sorry, I want to finish public comment, and we can move back to board member comment. So, sorry. Is there any more public comment?
What I'd like to bring up is, I don't know how many people notice when they ride around the south, the north loop at First Street, and they come around to start going south, that great big tree that sits out there. I've asked the people that want to put the amphitheater, I said, whatever you do, don't tear that tree out of there. Because they have taken some of the branches and bushes and that go out to that little walk. But the problem with this big tree is, every time I walk there in fall, if you never notice, the monarch butterflies sit on that tree until they take off and go south. And I mean, you'll never see a tree that just glistens. And the monarch, I don't know how many are on that tree. It's tremendous. And so that's a nice tree to leave right there for the monarchs.
Thank you.
Building on Mark's information.
Yeah.
My husband and I just talked about that, and he's on the board of the South City Rock and Blues. That tree should never be removed. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing, I didn't notice that. I was walking under there one day, all of a sudden, all the leaves start going, and it all starts flying, and it was wonderful.
Any other public comment? Glenn, welcome.
Thanks, Scott. Usually, anytime I meet, I'm representing the tribe, but actually this morning, I'm here, I'm the vice chair of the planning commission for our county. And I like communication, so I want to come here and see what all is going on. I'd like to invite, I don't know, Kyle or Mark or whomever, if you'd like to sometime give a synopsis and provide it to the planning department so we can get it out to other people. We have ideas here from flower gardens and everything else, which I think should be part of our overall area planning, development, and ideas to keep this place so beautiful. So I'd just like to invite that if it's possible.
Certainly.
Back to the old ways, we'll get rich.
Thank you, Glenn. Okay, sorry.
That's okay. I actually had a question about the mural that you brought up. So in Grand Rapids, I think they opened up a whole lot of public space to local artists to just go in and put their art in this spot. Is that something that we could do up here? I mean, I'd love for a tribal artisan to come down and put something in a public spot. I would love to, how many local artists are there that they could just come down and say, here is an area, have at it? And then how much of a cost is associated with that if you're providing a palette for a local artist to put their art out there?
I think Bruce asked a good question, so we'll start that process. Right, Mark?
Yes, sir.
Any other board member comments?
Can I ask a question about the scooters? Are they just going to be every so often on the street, River Street, or is there going to be like a docking station, a couple different docking stations?
So they'll rebalance them in certain areas and they'll group them. They're going to be using data to figure out where exactly to place them. But if you have issues where they're parked, we can report that. If they're in the sidewalk, and I see a couple, so we can, yeah, they're going to be kind of figuring out where to place them for the most usage.
Good, so they're just out there now for people to use, and
Right,
then
they're getting some data.
it would be nice to see them corralled in certain places rather than just all over the.
I think yesterday was day one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's cold and see.
There was a lot of scooters moving around yesterday evening.
Right.
I did not, I've done it, not here, but I was walking and there was a lot of scooters. It was fun.
It is very cool to see them, and I'm so glad you brought it up because they're so new. Is there going to be better signage? So if you are looking at the scooter, number one, it says helmets required. There's no helmets, and people don't carry helmets in their car to come downtown and wear because they don't know they're going to ride the scooter. So helmets required. There's no helmets. It doesn't really kind of indicate, once you get on it, how far this can take you. So somebody said yesterday, oh, it can take you as far as little past Family Fair.
Actually, all the information is on the app.
It's on the app, okay,
Yeah.
because I went to go do the app and then it said download the app and then I had a customer walk in the store, so I didn't get that far. But is there language then on the app, do you know, it does say you have to be over 18 to ride it. It is in the social district, so are we going to remind people that you can't probably be taking in some alcohol and then getting on one of these things? What's the repercussion for that? I just, maybe some signage somewhere before you have to, the app and then download the app, just for people's safety. I know common sense should really regulate a lot, but sometimes it doesn't.
It's done in a lot of places, you know, and so we're certainly not new to it, but there is an incredible amount of information on the app, shows state of charge and where they're located, and I think a lot of it's liability related as well. So I'm not sure if that's our responsibility or if it's the company that's provided them.
Well, I think when we put them in our social district, it becomes
A concern.
our concern. Thank you. Mhm.
Was it in the MSU study where they had a docking station in front of the public restroom? It looked really nice.
I think those are bikes, but,
Well,
But,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the app says park these at bike racks.
gotcha, okay.
and it'd be nice if those were a few different places.
Mhm.
And what do we do about the helmets then? You have to have your own handy when you hop on one of those?
I think it's a liability request.
We can post something on the downtown page too, just with the app, if we haven't already, just in bullet point a couple of things, just as reminders to people.
I think that would be good and makes us look like we're all, in the know and aware and concerned.
We know what we're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's a legitimate concern. And, as it stands now, before we've got anything up to calm the traffic, nothing in the crosswalks right now, and we just introduced, a bunch of scooters. I saw some heart-stopping stuff yesterday on the first day, between, riding on the sidewalks and dodging cars in the streets, and it was not a busy day. We haven't hit the summer season yet, so, I'm concerned. I'm glad the signs are going up, but, I think the instructions are to ride in the street. I wouldn't want my relatives, riding around in the street with the speed of some of the cars that are going through downtown. I don't know what to do with that, but, I'm worried.
I have some relatives I would encourage to.
All right, any other comments from board members? Okay, thank you all again. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Bruce.
I'll second.
Thank you, Deanna. Have a great week.